What if I told you a man recorded himself ripping people off so he could teach other people how to do it too? Yeah. Welcome to the dark psychologist who turned con artistry into a training program. And he's not alone. First, the man who recorded his own crimes. Meet Paul Regan, 6'2", 300 pounds, a bear of a man with a gentle voice. He promised investors 10 to 15% returns, guaranteed. He said he was buying gold and health insurance policies at a discount. He even claimed the biggest insurance companies in the world were backing him. Lloyd's of London, been around for hundreds of years. How could you not trust that? But here's where it gets weird. He recorded his sales calls, not for evidence, not for his therapist. He uploaded them to Google Drive and shared them with his sales team as training material. Here's how you manipulate a widow. Here's how you push someone over the edge. The investors never knew their fear and trust were being turned into a lecture for the next guy. 2. The psychology of you're special. Listen to how Regan talked to a 71-year-old woman who said she'd worked 2 jobs her whole life. Not only will you not lose your money, he told her, but in recognition of how hard you worked for it, your money's going to work twice as hard for you as you ever did for it. That's not sales, that's therapy. He made her feel seen, valued, like all those years of struggle were finally about to pay off. He played on their need for income, their fear of running out of money, their yearning to believe that someone finally had their back. That's the dark psychologist's first move. Find the vulnerability and wrap it in a hug. 3. The dinosaur defense. When investors hesitated, Regan had a weapon: humor. I have to tell you there's risk, he'd say, but at the end of the day, with insurance wrappers and protection, it's the same risk that we have of being ripped apart by a saber-toothed tiger or stepped on by a dinosaur. He compared losing your life savings to getting eaten by an extinct animal. People laughed. Then they invested. Because that's the second move. Make the scary thing feel ridiculous. If he can make you laugh at risk, he can make you ignore it. By the time federal agents caught on, he'd raised over $60 million from more than 300 investors. In March 2026, he pleaded guilty to 3 felony fraud charges. But Paul Regan is just one face in a very crowded room. 4. Charles Ponzi, the original. Let's go back to where it all started. 1920, Boston. An Italian immigrant named Charles Ponzi walks into town with an idea that would forever cement his name in history. He promised investors 50% returns in 45 days, 50% in a month and a half. Banks, bonds, legitimate businesses couldn't even come close. His method? He claimed he was exploiting price differences in international postal reply coupons. The reality? There were no meaningful trades, no profits, just money moving from new investors to old ones. Early participants were paid promptly, creating the illusion of a thriving business. Word spread. Cash poured in, at one point an estimated $250,000 a day. But by August, fresh money slowed. The scheme collapsed. Ponzi was arrested. His investors left counting losses instead of profits. Every time you hear Ponzi scheme, you're hearing his name. He didn't just run a scam, he invented a category. 5. Bernie Madoff, the king. Fast forward to 2008. Bernie Madoff gets arrested, and the world realizes this guy wasn't just running a Ponzi scheme, he was running the biggest one in history. Madoff was the former chairman of the Nasdaq stock market. He was Wall Street royalty. He sat on boards. He knew everyone. He was the last person you'd suspect. For decades, he promised investors steady, consistent returns. Nothing flashy, just solid, reliable growth. The kind of returns that made you feel safe, except there were no trades, no investments, just a giant shell game. By the time it all crashed, his account statements showed around $65 billion in fabricated value. Thousands of investors globally were wiped out. Banks, hedge funds, charities, even a 95-year-old who lost $545 million. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years. He died in prison in 2021. And here's what made him different from Ponzi. Ponzi was a small-time hustler. Madoff was the establishment. He didn't look like a con artist. He looked like a bank. That's exactly why people trusted him. 6. The Cryptoqueen, Ruja Ignatova. Now let's talk about the one who got away, Ruja Ignatova, the Cryptoqueen. In 2014, she founded something called Wunderkind. She told investors it was the next Bitcoin, the next big thing in cryptocurrency. She had a PhD, she spoke with authority, she looked like a tech visionary. The problem? Wunderkind had no blockchain, no actual technology, just industry jargon and a whole lot of hype. It was a pyramid scheme dressed up in crypto clothing. People were rewarded for bringing in more participants. Between 2014 and 2019, investors around the world lost more than $4 billion. Her co-founder, Carl Sebastian Greenwood, was sentenced to 20 years. But Ignatova, she disappeared in 2017. She's still on the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives list. There are rumors she's dead. There are rumors she's living large somewhere with the money. Nobody knows. She called her own investors stupid. While they were trusting her with their life savings, she was laughing at them. 7. Anna Delvey, the fake heiress. Not all con artists go after millions in investment funds. Some just want to live the high life. Enter Anna Sorokin, or as she called herself, Anna Delvey. She moved to New York in her 20s and pretended to be a wealthy German heiress with a $67 million trust fund. She wore designer clothes, stayed in luxury hotels, dined with prominent socialites and investors. She name-dropped the Rothschilds. She convinced banks to lend her money. She convinced hotels to let her stay for months without paying. She even applied for a $22 million loan to fund a private arts club. The whole thing was a fiction. She was born in Russia. She had no money. She had no trust fund. She just had confidence. And in New York, confidence is currency. She was convicted on multiple counts of larceny and theft. When asked if she was sorry, "I'm not sorry for anything," she said. "I'd be lying to you and everyone else if I said I was sorry." At least she's honest about that. 8. Elizabeth Holmes, the blood-testing billionaire. Now we go to Silicon Valley. Elizabeth Holmes, the youngest self-made female billionaire, the next Steve Jobs. She founded Theranos and promised to revolutionize blood testing. One finger prick, hundreds of tests, fast results, affordable healthcare for everyone. She raised over $700 million from investors like Rupert Murdoch and the Walton family. Her company was valued at $9 billion. There was just one problem. The technology never worked. Out of 300 tests the company developed, only 12 ever actually ran on their machine. When investors visited for demonstrations, they were shown a fake protocol, while their samples were secretly tested on third-party equipment in another room. Holmes fabricated endorsements from pharmaceutical companies. She put Pfizer's logo on reports without permission. She told investors the military was using her devices on battlefields. General James Mattis testified that never happened. The whole thing was a lie from start to finish. She was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 11 years in prison. In Silicon Valley, if you sound like a visionary and wear a black turtleneck, people will give you billions, even if you have nothing to show for it. 9. Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto Wunderkind. Then there's Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, the boy genius of crypto. He ran FTX, one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. He was worth billions. He was on magazine covers. He was donating millions to politicians. He was supposed to be the future of finance. Except he was secretly using customer funds to prop up his other company, Alameda Research. He funneled investor money into real estate, political contributions, and a lavish lifestyle. When the crypto market crashed in 2022, the whole thing collapsed. Customers lost about $8 billion. Equity investors lost $1.7 billion. Lenders lost another $1.3 billion. SBF was sentenced to 25 years in prison. But here's what makes SBF different. He didn't look like a con artist. He looked like a math nerd, messy hair, t-shirts, a weird laugh. He seemed almost awkward. And that awkwardness made him seem trustworthy. Because surely someone that's socially awkward couldn't be a master manipulator, right? Wrong. 10. Wirecard, the corporate giant. Not all frauds are run by individuals. Sometimes it's an entire company. Wirecard was a German payment processing company. A darling of the fintech scene, it entered Germany's prestigious DAX stock index in 2018. It was worth billions. Then in June 2020, the company admitted that 1.9 billion euros, about 2.1 billion, that were supposedly sitting in trust accounts in the Philippines, likely did not exist. A quarter of the company's balance sheet, gone, just not there. The Philippine banks named in the document said Wirecard was never a client. The auditors had been fooled for years. Investors lost more than 20 billion euros. The CEO resigned. The company filed for insolvency. And the German financial regulator called it the most horrifying situation I've ever seen. What's terrifying about Wirecard is that it wasn't a lone wolf con artist. It was an institution. Auditors, banks, regulators, everyone was asleep at the wheel while billions vanished.